All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Running with Wolves. So today we got a lot of requests for me to talk about how I made my first $1 million in business, and just kind of lessons that I learned, things I would have done differently, all that good stuff. So we're going to talk about that today and just kind of my journey to getting there. I've talked about this a little bit, but I'm really excited to share more with you guys. So hopefully you take a little something out of this. So I am 4 years into business now, and we have a multi-million-dollar company, which is really exciting. But within those 4 years, a lot of shifts and changes have happened. So when I first started this business, I've told you guys that I was divorced, freshly divorced, mind you, at 23 years old. That was a really great decision for me. Frontal lobe people, that's all I have to say. So I was divorced. I was broke, like broke as a joke, you guys. When I say broke as a joke, I mean, I was barely eating. I was eating one meal a day so that I could also feed my dog and afford to buy dog food for him. I was paying my rent, and that was it. I basically was like opening up new credit cards so I could afford gas. Like, it was quite a situation. It was really fun. And essentially it was like the beginning of COVID. I had just left my job at another marketing agency because at the beginning of COVID, my hours got slashed and I wasn't making a living wage. And I started freelancing as a digital marketer. In probably about 1 month, got 10 clients and doubled what I was making, at the marketing agency, to the point where I felt like it was pretty consistent, which was cool. And I was like, okay, you know what? I am going to walk away from my 9 to 5. I've been an entrepreneur before. I know that I want to go back to this life. And so I'm just going to kind of take this as like a nudge from the universe to basically go full time with this. So I did. And I was about to make my first investment into a business coach, and I was making about 10K per month at this point. This was just a couple months after starting this business. And overnight, because I didn't have proper contracts in place, because I didn't have a lot of systems and processes in place, I had half of my clients basically stop working with me. So my income got cut in half, and I was terrified. So that was the point at which I really was at like a fork in the road, essentially, right? I was not really making a ton of money. Obviously, I was like making enough, but like to get by. I wasn't as broke as I was, but I had also committed to investing a significant amount of money into a business coach that would help me scale my business. And so if I had made that investment with the current amount of money that I was bringing in terms of cash per month after all my bills, I would have been in the negative. And so I made the decision to basically borrow like a small amount of money, make the investment because I knew that I would make a return on investment from it, and move forward with my business. There are a lot of people who at that point would have turned around and been like, you know what? I need money. I don't want to go into debt. I don't want to borrow money. So I'm just not going to make this investment, and I'm just going to go back to my 9 to 5, try to hack it on my own, and then eventually, not have a business. I saw a saying, actually today, it was really interesting. There was a meme. All of our really inspirational stuff comes from memes now. It's really funny. And it said, billionaires invest millions to make billions. Millionaires invest hundreds of thousands of dollars to make millions. Broke people won't invest any money to become rich. And I think it was a really interesting thought process of like how we go about making decisions as business owners, because there are so many people who would have looked at that situation and been like, that is a stupid ass decision to make. What if it doesn't work? And there was me just being like, whatever, I'm going to figure it out and I'm going to be successful no matter what. Because I knew that I was so freaking determined to be successful that if I could just get the right information to basically plug into, immediately I would be successful. I'm like, I don't care what it takes. I'm going to make it happen. So I think that mindset honestly is something that typically you cannot teach, in my opinion, and people have it or they don't a lot of times. And I feel like a lot of times it can make or break your success as a business owner. There are different things, obviously, along the different phases of business that can make or break your success. When you're just starting up your business, if you do not believe in yourself more than anyone else, you're not going to be successful. And I think I've carried that with me my entire business. Is like, I really don't care what people throw my way. Everything is figure outable. Everything, I can handle anything, honestly. And it's like, I think it's kind of that big dick energy that you have to have in order to be successful. You have to be almost like delusional of like, I'm going to be successful no matter what. And people are like, what are you talking about? Like, you're $10,000 in debt. I don't care. I'm going to be successful, right? And you're taking the action because it's going to pay off in the long run. So to get to my $1 million year, there were a lot of things that happened. Basically, I scaled my digital marketing business by myself for, I think it was almost about 2 years, year and a half. I don't know. It all blends together, honestly, but I scaled it for a significant amount of time. I had clients on my own and I was doing all the things. I was doing all of their marketing for them. I was writing the content, creating the graphics, posting for them, closing sales for them, doing all the things. And it got to the point where it was so overwhelming that I was like, I have to bring on a team member. So I brought on a really amazing sales closer to help me with my clients. And so she helped me. We worked hand in hand kind of together to support clients. And it got to the point where I had to make the decision, am I going to turn this into a full agency, or am I just going to essentially have to keep raising my prices to work with me as just like a freelance social media manager so that I can actually get my time back? Because at that point, I think I had probably 8 to 10 clients again, but it was more work than it had been before, even though I wasn't doing sales for them. And it was to the point where I was like, okay, yeah, we're making great money, but also at the same time, I'm working like 13-hour days and it's just not worth it, right? So we made the decision to turn it into what was Alpha Agency. And we basically brought on 5 team members. And at that point, we were almost to our $1 million year. And this was probably in like our 2nd year of business, I want to say. And something that I will definitely say is that in that year of business, when you launch an agency in that first year, you are trying to figure everything out. It's so different from when you're doing it yourself to when you have a team that's doing it. And so our systems and processes was like the main refinement. And honestly, I always talk about how there's 3 phases of your business. There's building, refining, and scaling. The building phase is rough, you guys. It's like problem after problem after problem that you're trying to fix because you've just never encountered it before. And when you're scaling so quickly, something my business coach told me always sticks with me. When you're scaling rapidly and you're creating the kind of revenue in 1 year that it takes companies 5 years to create, you're also experiencing the amount of problems that a company typically has over 5 years in 1 year. And so you're building at a rapid rate, but you're also problem solving at a rapid rate. So it's just like this constantly. And you're just like holding on for dear life, trying to figure your shit out. So we finally got to a point where I felt like we got into a groove for sure. So our client retention was good, referrals were good, and then we really had to focus, I would say, on the front end of our marketing and sales. And a lot of times I will say, when you're getting to your first seven figure year, where you make it like all in 1 year, basically, there are 2 sides to it. Number 1 is external or front facing, right? You have to dial in your marketing and your sales strategy front facing. So you have to get really good at attracting in clients and signing clients. But there's also the internal stuff, right? Which is systems, processes, client experience, retention and referrals, all that good stuff. So we went through different phases of focusing on each of those things at separate times. And there was never a time where I felt like we really had both of those things just locked in until probably I would say like the next year. And that is really when I felt the momentum shift, when our front-facing marketing and sales strategy was just killing the game. Like we were signing clients left and right. But then on the back end, we also really knew our shit in terms of how to scale our business from there, and how to get clients, really excited about the process, how to get them really great results, etc. The other thing we also did to scale to 7 figures is we didn't just have our done for you agency. We actually made that really exclusive. So we still, to this day, only work with like 4 to 6 agency clients at any given time, because it is like, we're literally your marketing and sales department. It's a lot. But we incorporated more offers into our product suite. So we started doing one-on-one consulting, which I still do to this day, in a very exclusive capacity. And then we also incorporated our accelerator program. And that's our like group marketing and sales program essentially. And then we had like some other digital products here and there. And that I feel like was, once we got those offers locked in, we knew how to really create effortless sales for each of those things. And then we got the back end really dialed in as well that's exactly when I knew. Like I felt the shift and kind of the hockey stick moment, as we all like to refer to it. It's like you're going almost like down and things kind of normalize, and then you feel it slowly uptick, and then you just blast off basically in terms of overall sales. So that's really kind of how we got to our first 7-figure year. And now as a multi 7-figure company, we have a team of, I think it's like 8 or 9 at this point. We're on track to double in 2024 our multiple 7-figure revenue this year. And we'll also add like a bunch of more people to our team. We're going to launch more offers. So we're definitely in that scaling and expanding phase, but obviously it wasn't always this way. So we're in a really exciting place, but it's definitely been a climb to get here. And again, like I said, we're 4 years in. So for those of you who are a year in, 2 years in, 3 years in, and you're like, oh my God, how am I going to keep going? Know that it gets better. But they're not joking when they say like, give it 5 years. And if you can make it past 5 years, you can do anything. And I feel like it's really where we're at right now. So I feel like finally I'm like, wow, we can do anything. But it was rough getting here, you guys. You're going to face a lot of struggles, but if you can just stay consistent and lock things in, you're good to go. And just, it's almost like my therapist always says, it's like when you have a kid, you don't even bring up the word divorce for the first 2 years of that kid's life. It's the same thing with your business. For the first 5 years of your business's life, you don't even talk about quitting. You're just in that heads down building phase. Like don't even give it a second thought because you have to get it built before you make that decision. So that's kind of how we got there. A question I got was, what would you do differently if you had to start again knowing what you know now? And I kind of touched on this a little bit, but the first thing was I would have really locked in our systems, our processes earlier to really make sure we were increasing client retention and referrals. The first thing that we really nailed was our marketing and our sales strategy. Now, there is nothing wrong with this, and I actually think it is really important, but I wish I had done both of those things in tandem sooner rather than later. Like I said, there were phases where we dialed in both of those things at different times, like our front-facing marketing, our sales, and then our internal systems and our processes and stuff like that. And it wasn't until probably like 2.5, 3 years in that we really made sure both of those things were happening at the same time. And I think that if we had really done what we needed to do in terms of locking in our systems and our processes earlier, in addition to our front-facing marketing and our sales, we wouldn't have had to push so hard on the front-facing marketing and sales side to get to 7 figures, because it felt like a really hard push constantly in terms of our content. We were just pumping out so much content, having so many sales conversations, that I think if we were able to retain more clients because we had really dialed in that client experience and those systems and processes earlier, I think we would have gotten there a lot faster, and that compound effect would have kicked in really, really quickly. So that's one thing I would have done. The other thing I would also say is do not try to hit 7 figures all in 1 year. And if you do want to do that, and if you're crazy like me, just like know what you're getting yourself into. I will say it was funny because I have a memory of talking to my business coach and being like, this is our 7-figure year. I already know it. And we were at a point where the year prior, I think we'd made like 650, 700K in 1 year. And I remember her looking at me and being like, that's a big jump. And I just want you to know what that's going to entail to be able to do that. And I want you to know what you're going to sacrifice in order to make that happen. And I remember just being like, because I think and I don't know if you guys are similar, but I'm definitely somebody where it's like, if somebody tries to warn me not to do something, it makes me want to do it more. I'm like, okay, I don't know, you guys are clearly just like soft or something and can't handle it, but I can handle it, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to prove to you that I'm better than you, kind of thing. Would I have had that mindset going into it if I know what I know now? Probably I still would, but I just would have had a better handle, I guess, on like the mindset stuff. When I went into this to build our 7-figure year, I genuinely feel like I ran 1 million marathons. I'm not going to lie. It was a lot of work. And I will say I was working probably 13-hour days. And I had many breakdowns during our $1 million year. In fact, I think I told my business coach, I was like, I want to burn it to the ground. And she was like, remember what I said? I'm like, okay, I'll just keep going. But what I will say is I think there was a significant shift that happened in my ability to handle really difficult situations. My capacity expanded, and it was because I finally started to value routines. And we talked about basically how scaling to your 7-figure year as a business owner is like being a professional athlete, honestly. Just as hard as you have to run and just as hard as you have to build, you have to recover just as hard. So I started to do meditations every morning. I started to do ice baths every morning. I made sure I was working out every morning. I had a glass of wine every night. But that's besides the point. But I was really intentional about my recovery and not just the building of the business. So I think that the biggest difference maker, like I said, was really when I started to take my mental game really seriously. And that's when I felt things shift. And to me, I feel like our $1 million year was the year where I shifted from a business owner to a CEO, honestly. That was the year where I was like, I don't feel like I just own a business. I feel like I lead a business as well. I know I can handle things. I know how to handle conflict with team, with clients, with any of those things. I'm no longer on this emotional roller coaster of like, if our applications dip slightly, I know how to fix it and I don't freak out about it. If a team member has a small breakdown or something, I know how to handle it and I know how to make sure I prevent those things now. I know how to lead my team and how to take care of them, right? And how to value them as actual team members so that they build the business really well for me rather than me building it, because it's also a very different phase of business that we're in now. I'm no longer building this business. My team builds it and I lead them and I support them essentially, and I build them up basically. I shifted from building the business to building my team. So those are the things I will definitely say are lessons that I took from it, is make sure that your mental game is just on lock and you know what you're getting into when you decide that you're going to build 7 figures. Is it feasible? Can you do it? Yeah, absolutely. But I would basically say like, you almost have to be like a single female with nothing else. Like you're going to sacrifice, or a single male or whatever. You are going to sacrifice your social life that year. You're going to sacrifice sleep. You're going to sacrifice some mental health, a lot of things. But it's going to be so worth it in the long run. And it was almost like a building phase in and of itself. And now we're very much in the scaling phase, which is really cool. So the other lesson that I learned was to really surrender to the process. This is something I learned from my business coach. And actually my word for 2024 is surrender, because I would constantly try to prevent things, fight things, control things to make them either not happen or be better or any of those things. But there's only so much that you can control. And I realized how much energy it takes for you to actually try to control those situations so that they end up the way that you want them to, rather than just like kind of throwing your hands up and being like, you know what, it's going to be what it's going to be. This is all I can do about that. And this is all I'm going to focus on. And I'm going to move forward by putting and investing my energy into something that's actually going to build my business rather than worrying about these things. And you almost have to compartmentalize. Like, it's so silly, but I think about like Kim Kardashian did an interview when she was talking about being the CEO of Skims. And she was like, they were like, how do you handle it all? She's like, I literally have to compartmentalize. It's like, okay, kids, I'm going to get them situated. I'm fully in this moment. Great. I'm done with kids. Done. Moving to the side. Work. Here's what I'm doing. This is everything I'm doing right now. Done with that. Moving it to the side. Law school. This is everything I'm doing. I'm moving it to the side. Right. And that's basically what you have to do as a business owner, is you compartmentalize, you surrender to the process, you focus on what's in front of you, you give 110% to that, and you move on. It's also probably why I forget 110% of the things that I'm doing, but I'm really good at what's in front of me, you guys. So the last lesson that I learned, which I kind of touched on a little bit, but treat your team right and they will literally do anything for you. Honestly, I have gotten, and this is something I really pride myself on, because team was not a huge initiative for me in the beginning because I was just trying to keep my head above water. And I hate to say it that way, but I didn't invest in my team the way I should have in the first couple of years of business. And last year and this year has been a huge, huge initiative in terms of our team for me, because I really do feel like I said, I moved into a different phase of business. But I genuinely learned that if you know how to treat your team right, they will do anything for you. And I've gotten a lot of actually like messages from team members over the last year basically saying like, thank you for making this decision. Thank you for being like so good to us and like paying attention and genuinely caring about us as people. And for me as a boss, which is like weird to consider myself that, but like as a boss, I genuinely do not take pride in anything else other than the fact that my team respects me as a leader, appreciates me as a leader, and feels seen and heard by me, because I've been on the other end of that where you don't feel seen and heard by your boss. And it sucks, honestly. And like, there is nothing about that situation that wants you or makes you want to be good at your job. And I genuinely have learned that if you know how to empower your team, make them feel seen and heard, and create a company and a mission that they want to be a part of, they will do anything for you. So I would say those are definitely the lessons that I learned. Last thing is tips and advice for business owners who are struggling to hit the $1 million mark in their business. Okay, so kind of more of the same, but your marketing, your sales strategy truly can make or break your $1 million year. If you don't have a marketing and sales strategy that like every single second is converting people into sales through your content, it's going to be an uphill battle constantly to hit 7 figures. I actually believe the reason why we hit 7 figures so quickly, because we honestly did it really freaking fast in comparison to a lot of other businesses. And we did it really profitably, honestly. I think that the reason why we did so well and grew so quickly was because of our marketing and our sales strategy, honestly. It converted so quickly. So if you don't have a highly converting marketing strategy, it's going to take you a lot longer to get to your $1 million year. Number 2 is learn how to interpret your audience data really well to make selling easier. A lot of times, something that I will see from business owners is that they play a guessing game with their sales because they're either looking at their data, but they don't know how to interpret it into a strategy, or they're not even looking at their data at all. And you guys, when I say you don't have to reinvent the wheel, you don't have to constantly be creating content or feeling like you don't know what content to create in order to create sales. It does not have to feel that way, and it's going to make your sales so much easier if you make marketing strategy decisions based on the data. And then, like I just said, you don't have to reinvent the wheel to get to 7 figures. You don't have to have new strategies, new content every single day in order to hit 7 figures. You don't have to like hack the algorithm or find that next SEO hat or any of those things. SEO hack or any of those things. That's really not the case. We have created a multi-million-dollar business off of organic content, and we talk about the same 10 things probably in the last 4 years. We've talked about the same 10 things with different examples, content ideas, topics, problems, desires, symptoms, everything. And we've been able to create that level of revenue from that. So please understand that even though I've made it sound like a very daunting task, hitting 7 figures is actually not that hard. It really just takes the right marketing and sales strategy, the right product suite, even if you're B2B or B2C, and the right internal systems and processes to increase client and sales retention and referrals and, repeat customers, things like that. And you'll hit 7 figures pretty quickly. So if you have more questions about my journey to 7 figures, or if you're somebody who wants help with that and you're just really not sure where to even begin, I want to have a conversation with you. So pop everything in the comments below if you have questions and we'll answer them. And I hope you have a great rest of your day, you guys, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye, guys.